Well, here we are, peeps. We're back with another one in the Dragon Age Vidcast series. Keeping it very low-key here. Going to be talking you through what has happened in this very unusual type of session. So, here's what was coming up, basically. Warlock of Firetop Mountain. Prepared that, ready to throw at the guys. And possibly, Damus Archon is inside. Maybe it's a laboratory for further experiments going on. But the thing is, Amelia has also been given a mission by the Templar Order to go in and recover a Blood Apostle, which is a kind of what happens next, possibly, to blood mages that go out of control. They become a bit like a vampire. They need other people's blood and they get crazy. So it's kind of a vampire hunt sort of thing we're doing here. So, Amelia is now a Knight Captain, so she gets given 10 Templars and told, hey, do that. And then the whole group, they have to, they're given the same mission as well. However, they don't realise it. Lady Baranti's going to give the group their mission. Now, the group may not need to run it. So basically what's happening is Amelia's come along. She's brought a squad of 10 Templars with her. And before she went in, she also recruited Castello, the shape-changing serpent man person who Laurie also played with the party sort of thing. In this, he's playing as a NPC, basically. But he's got some healing powers. That was the closest they were going to get to a healer sort of thing, really. So yeah, Castello's come along. So there's 12 of them. 12 of them going into a dungeon. So I wonder what would happen, and it's just so silly and ridiculous. And we of course we keep making the joke about Laurie Super Party, ho! Where it's just all the characters in the party are Laurie, and they could just go along and just complete everything. And basically Laurie would just Laurie roll the rest of the players in the group, because they come along to do it, and it'd be like, yeah, Laurie's did it, Laurie did it, Laurie did it, Laurie's already done it. You've just been Laurie rolled. Laurie did it with Laurie, and Laurie. He's got quite a few characters, and if they all teamed up, he can make a party of Laurie, and they could all just go in and complete dungeon after dungeon. But in this one case, we're letting him have a crack at it, basically, as a player, solo. And, maybe the others won't need to go in and do it. And, just for pure sadism's sake as well. He's taking in these 10 Templars that are just the basic stats sort of ones that you see in set 3. So, they're nothing special, like 25 health, sort of thing, nothing special at all. Only a little bit better than Genlock's because of, armour and that. So, yeah, it's silly. It's quite silly, isn't it? So they wanted to try and find out what they could, some rumours about it and what. Oh, and by the way, also any experience that he'd get from doing this, I'll give to the rest of the group anyway. I'm not gonna withhold that and say, oh, it's only you get to do it because I let him do it, and favouritism sort of thing. So they were a bit questioning actually of Castello. Oh, just one more thing to say actually before we carry on, all over the place as always. If for some reason the Templars were to fail and Amelia was to fail, then there could still be a chance of saviour because the other group are possibly heading that way from behind. So, a group to go in and save him. But hey, let's hope it won't come to that. But we've had the first session of it, kind of a mini session running some of it. So, it was a session, so we'll tell you what happened in it. So, yeah, the Templars were a bit iffy about meeting Castello, and Amelia did advise Castello, look, don't show the full extent of what you can do, sort of thing. These are Templars, In other words, don't change into a snake. Okay? Just don't do it. Okay. So, and Lady Baranti has been holding Castello because she is basically trying to repopulate them as a people and and bring them back as a kingdom. And she's got a Temple of Yig underground under her house built now, where Costello can go and pray, and the egg is down there waiting. He's of course got the Jade Serpent strapped to him around these leather strap things, and off he went with them. And the other Templars were like, "Is this a mage? He's in cloth." And Amelia says, "No, he's a priest." He says, "Yeah, a priest of what? The Chantry? That's no priest I recognise. We're holy warriors. What is he?" And he said that he's a priest of Yig. And he said, "Well, why are we mixing with him then? Isn't the maker the true God?" And it's just like, "My God's better than your God," sort of nonsense thing going on. Then a bit of that, and then one of because Amelia's party, her squad of Templars, don't exactly trust her that much. She raised to the position a little bit too quickly for some of their liking, and she hasn't proven herself to them yet. And so some of them are a bit questioning of her authority. And they said to her, one of them in particular said, "Well, that's fine, but I assume that this is an unofficial companion on our travels, and that when we actually get the debriefing back at HQ, that we're not to mention him." And Amelia said, "Yes, that would be right." Ooh dear. What are you doing, Amelia? You're getting yourself in trouble, Amelia. But they one of them said, "Well, look, if it is an apostate, please tell me you at least have the phylactery." And he said, "Well, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I've said what he is." Or if it's a mage, basically, not apostate. If it's a mage, please tell me he's got the phylactery. But anyway, off they went to... this was going to be Dragon's Peak, actually. But the Chastened call it Firetop Mountain. It's really... It's a great synergy, because, they both kind of like red at the top or whatever. So, beautiful, man. You see what I did there with the Chastened call it Firetop Mountain? So, off they go to Firetop Mountain and find the entrance, and that's a big cave thing, and they delve in. They've all got these little glow stones, their own little individual glow stones that are hooked onto their belts, so seeing in there isn't a problem. All of them except Costello, of course. And he's instantly faced with the decision, do we turn left or do we turn right? So he completely ignores the right, and they're making an awful lot of noise. Clank, 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 11 people in plate armour, and somebody else walking along in robes, not so noisy. Swish, 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 but clank, 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 times 22. And you can see that made a lot of reverberations all the way up the echoey hallway, and it all went up. And then they got a return off of it, and then they heard scampering feet and grinding stone, and then shouts and voices, and there was a whole lot of mobilising. Now, here's what's really going on. The first rooms of this dungeon, are made so that they're all like garrison rooms, troop rooms, sort of thing. So they've got dispersed encounters of one or two or so, enemies in them. In this case, it's going to be Darkspawn, because that's always a direct conversion for like orcs and goblins. It's perfect, goblins, genlocks, orcs, herlocks, excellent, ogres, trolls, ogres. Or you could do something else with that as well, obviously. So, this is another person that's using Darkspawn, commanding them somehow, fooling them, making them think that, he's the archdemon or something. The other person they met that was able to have this power over the Darkspawn was Zorton Throg. You know, the Dreamer Throg, apprentice of Damus. Well, anyhow, they're all being noisy, so all the dispersed encounters that you're meant to meet room to room to room by just being like on your own or whatever, instead they're all rushing out and they're all coming at the Templars at once, which means that when I do read the pages of the book, I have to, read them contextually. So where if it says someone's in there, they actually won't, because they've all run out and they're coming for the Templars there in the hallway. And I did wonder, how's Amelia going to handle this? What's her order going to be? And she gave the order to make a shield wall there in the tunnel. They made just about 4 across, by one of them arcing his shield at a bit of an angle. And the Genlocks came in, and the Hurlocks were trying to fire the bowfire things, and they were trying to fire high, but they hit off the ceiling wall and just bounced down. And the Genlocks rushed in, and some of them went low, and other Genlocks jumped up on their backs and hopped over the shield wall, and then there was a shield wall essentially behind that of more Templars, and they start cutting in and stuff. Long story short, big old battle, scratches, injuries, wounds all round. The Templars win. They kill the 10 Hurlocks, 10 Genlocks, and there looked like an unknown amount of Hurlocks, but it's possible that some fell back and got away. It's unknown. But there was less of them than there were Genlocks. And one Templar ended up killed. His helmet plate ended up smashed in by a Hurlock, crushed, and he was just stepped upon, crushed his windpipe. So yeah, that's one Templar down, could not be saved. And Costello gets out the bandages and things, and the ointments and the tinctures, and starts smelling salts and all the rest of it, bringing them round and getting their heads back together, putting them back into the fight, ready to push on into the place. But it's the encounter over, it's the guards done with. And why so an easy battle? Well, they were spending all their stunt points, these particular naughty Darkspawnies, by spreading the taint. So everybody's now going to have to take taint tests. Everybody. Ooh, yeah. Nice. So that could be difficult, because if the person that runs this dungeon is able to control Darkspawn, right, then you might be able to control ghouls or the tainted, which means that if you get to the boss sort of thing, well, you might have some interesting allies not becoming allies thing anymore. We'll have to see. And I won't, of course, announce how many failed tests and so forth. That will all be done privately for the Templars and so on. But yeah, even Amelia's going to have to run it. They were squirting their blood pretty bad. And they were trying to infect them. That's kind of their orders here on this. Very naughty. And they push on through the rooms, and they find one room with a rodent in a box, and it's a mouse, but it's tainted. Little Darkspawn mouse. Amelia picks it up and drops it, and another box, and one of the soldiers moves it with his sword, and it moves back. Costello says, "Oh, it's talking to me, let me deal with it," and opens it, and this snake flies out and bites him in the arm, and he just stares at it calmly and strokes it on the head, and it releases its thing and it slithers off, sort of thing, and leaves a key behind with it. And so they're picking up these keys from these places that the Darkspawn were populating. Each room's kind of got like a table with a box underneath, kind of thing. So yeah, basically, when you read the Warlock of Firetop Mountain and the things like the snoring guard and all that, again, wasn't there. No one could have slept through what happened. Came running round and fought in that first hallway when you turn left as soon as you get in, kind of thing. So, yeah, just like push on through the rooms, find some more things. They managed to find a chest, a locked chest, and smashed it open. And it had a trap on it, but it was a poison delay trap. So the Templar was checking through, and there was a vial of black liquid and some gold in there and some other things. And then it fired off its poison dart, and poison went into him, and it's affected him now. Costello checked him over and said, yeah, that's a pretty nasty poison. So he might have difficulties through the rest of it. So it might be another Templar shaky then at this point. And so they're just moving on, searching room to room. There was screaming coming from one room, and there was a couple of like hunchback monstrosities that I guess are subjects of the master of this place, and they were torturing the dwarf, and he screams his last breath, and Amelia comes in and slays them both, and then checks the dwarf, but he can't be saved. And then there's screaming coming from a room, and they open it up, and it's a wild, crazy, naked man running at them with a table leg, rah! The sort of thing. And one of the Templars draws his sword, and he's ready to strike him down. And Amelia says, "No, hold your sword, hold!" And says, "Look, we are not here to hurt you." And then he kind of dances to the left of the Templar to try and get round him, and dances to the right of the Templar to try and get round him, and then over to the other side of the room and tries to squeeze through, but only manages to get a leg through because the Templar's blocking the door there. And then he suddenly realises who's standing there, and his common sense comes back to him, and he sees it's Templars. He recognises them and explains, "I used to be an adventurer like you." I just want to say about an arrow and an E, but I'm not going to do it. And then I got captured in this place and whatever, and I've become a pet to them now. I'm an amusement for them all. And then the Darkspawn moved in, and then things got really bad. So he gave them a little bit of information. He said that about which lever to pull, and give your regards to the boatman and at the river. Also, another interesting fact about the river in this place: this dungeon is split up by a river. The entire northern section and southern section is divided in the very centre by an underwater and an inside mountain river. Okay, underground river, and the north and south side is also the divider between the writers that wrote it. So between Jackson and Livingston. I don't know which way round actually it was. Come to think of it, but one wrote one south and one wrote north of the river, so that's great. When you cross the river, you're in a new person's content, DLC unlocked. So anyway, just like all these signs of this being a crazy, horrible place, and they eventually get to the portcullis, and there's the two levers, and Amelia pulls the right lever, and the portcullis raises. And, through they go, through that. And then they decide, where are we going to turn? Well, we're going to turn left. So they turn left, and they look on into, there's a cavern there. And they can't see an exit through the cavern. The passageway carries on still that way, but it's like a north turn into a rough cavern, fairly large. They can't see an exit through there, but the only way to really tell would be to go in. So are you going in? And the problem with this kind of thing is you can see that they're giving away a lot of keys here. And some of these keys are like needed keys. You need this key and that key precisely. And maybe some of the enemies are carrying keys, and so then you don't know if something you'd be avoiding would actually be carrying a very important key that you need to complete the thing. It's a terrible thing about these fighting fantasy books. They're so cruel. You might avoid something that's is too dangerous, and you needed the thing that thing had sometimes, and so on. And it's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Where it says, "Now please turn to the thing," or "Your adventure ends here." This actually brings us to where the players are, by the way, so I'm not waffling at this point. They haven't got into the cavern, they're deciding where they're going to go. Laurie and his Super Laurie squad. And, the thing is, when if I was to come to those parts of the book, your adventure ends here. It's terrible as a GM trying to run that, because you can't say, oh, party wipe, you're all dead. Because the book told me so. Because, they're very, very retro confining, those books, of course. Wonderful for their time, but you have to use some modicum of common sense in this. You can't just kill a party because the page tells you so, obviously. So the only way I was able to consider running Warlock was to find a map that had all the relevant number entries on it. Okay, so I'll show you the entries for the lower part that we just been dealing with there, like that. Okay, so as such, if anyone gets lost, or you get something that's not plausible because it's a party, or because you're trying to actually GM it, what the book's telling you isn't plausible, you can soft reset, because that passage does start with page number blah blah, so you can go back to it. Or if they decide, we want to backtrack through the place, which the books sometimes don't let you do. There's a famous part when you're actually playing the book, that if you get to the river and you go the other side that isn't the boatman's side, then you don't get an option to backtrack all the way back through the dungeon and then take the other turning that will take you to the boatman's side. You instead have to jump into the water and go with the flow, so to speak, down the east way, and then wash up on that south bank, and then it's the same heading as if you'd arrived there. Basically, it's the same page, and so you have to take that a little bit into account. But I don't know too much about the dungeon, so it's funny because I'm kind of running it cold too. And the way this has been able to work is because obviously someone very kindly made this map, and I've printed it out, and it's got all these numbers on it. But also I was able to go to a Wikipedia type page and get a list of all of the creature encounters in Warlock of Firetop Mountain. So then it doesn't even spoil it hardly for me, because I get to go through all of that and make a list of, potentially, if they fight this, it will be that. If they fight this, it will be that, in Dragon Age conversion terms, and so on. And I've made 2 new profiles just for this as well, of course. And but other than that, it's got information about maybe what you could use instead and where to find it, kind of thing. What set book or what PDF, and so that's all going to be part of my file. So you're going to be able to see that and the map and everything else in the link that's going to be on below, so you can get at that and maybe consider running it for yourself. Of course, you need a copy of Warlock of Firetop Mountain 2 to be able to do this, but you could potentially do what I did, with a little bit of heads up of knowing a couple of things, like I've explained, that had to be different, and be contextually aware, of course, and run it without really even needing to read it first. Gosh, take a look at the Blood Apostle, because there's kind of 2 suggested ways of doing it, and there's the initial one, and then there's a kind of like a beta feedback idea for another way to look at them, kind of thing. So it's all over the place. It's just something to provide something for the players, and I'd love the opportunity to actually bring it to a professional editor at Green Ronin and actually work on the thing, see what they say themselves, the creators. But yeah, anyway, that's where we're up to. She's made it this far. Wouldn't it be funny if she completed it? Laurie would be a bit like Ceiling Cat, wouldn't she, or Router Cat? It's, to the rest of the group, I'm inside your dungeon stealing your loots, or something like along those lines. She's becoming a meme. She's a meme son of a gun. Daughter of a gun. So, anyway, I'm going to see you at the next one, and until that time, see you at the table.